excited to see the Kadimah filled like this, and if only we had a bigger Zal. As we all know, the Kadimah is such an important part of the Northern Jewish community and has been for over 100 years. It's the one institution that's dedicated to the Yiddish language and culture, and this finds its expression in all the many activities that take place here, whether it's referaten, lectures, the laying cries, the reading circles, the Wednesday Seniors Club for the Alterkackers and the not so Alterkackers, and much, much more. But we know there's also such a deep hunger and yearning to hear Yiddish, and your attendance today seems to really reinforce that. But we're sure your enthusiasm is also coupled with a really extraordinary lineup of performers who are here today. Many of them are part of a superbly talented Yiddish-speaking group who continue to enrich our Kehillah, and others who don't speak Yiddish have simply been exceptionally generous in accepting our invitation to share their talent with us today. But more of the performers a little later. Libe Brent, the consuming passion that is love, is our theme this evening. For many of us, when we think of the Yiddish language and its rich literature, we might think of Shalom Aleichem, we might think of Peretz, Sholomash, all great writers who talk of the human condition. But love isn't always at the forefront. Tonight, with familiar and unfamiliar readings and poetry, literature and song, we hope to surprise you as we explore Libe Brent through its Yiddish lens. So settle in and enjoy as Yiddish fills the Zal and nourishes your neshama, your soul. Now, before I proceed to start the performances, there are just two things I need to say. One is, can you turn off your cell phone, the mobile? And I won't be saying everything, I probably won't be saying a lot in Yiddish necessarily, but ich will a Kollege geben zu die Einzelnehmer, and I want you to understand how gifted and wonderful they are. So I probably will be introducing them mainly in English, so entschuldigung. I'd like to call to the stage firstly the wonderful Feldman, someone who's been so familiar to many of us in this hall, as she has performed in countless community events, smachot, and in Yiddish theatre. She has recently returned from Singapore with a young family, and how lucky are we to have her back. The bell-like clarity of her superb voice and her beautiful interpretation of lyrics has moved many on so many occasions, and I can still remember her rendering of Papi Bossen, the song about a cigarette boy wanting to sell his cigarettes in the ghetto, that still leaves me absolutely moved. Happily for us, Charak has finally found time to record her first CD in Yiddish, and we look forward to its launch sometime in the future. She's also literally been busy adding another string to her bow in studying a new instrument, the ukulele, known in Yiddish as the ukulele. And how fitting that as a young mother she has chosen to sing a song that reveals that first love that most of us experience, that of a mother's love for her child. A libe that is deep and lingering and absolutely consuming. Expressing these songs, these emotions through song, Carol will be singing the lullaby Shah Shlofan, Quiet Sleep, and she will accompany herself on her ukulele. Thank you, Carol.
Not sure which microphone. This song is called Shah Shlofan. Can you hear me? Yes. I'm so honoured that Zylberman taught me this song when I was really little, and I still have the lyrics written in her handwriting, and I still use that today when I chose the song for the concert tonight. So I hope you enjoy it. Oh, one more thing. I'm pretty sure I was the only woman, the only person in Singapore who used to sing this song to my children.
Als Sachname is worden gewollt, dass Karen soll kommen, 6 Uhr sagen, in Schule, sie wird wieder in English. Many mothers would love Karen to come at 6 o'clock in the evening to offer that lullaby. Hinde Burstin, who is our next performer, is both a Yiddish lesbianist and a lesbian Yiddishist, who has a brennende Liebe für jiddische Gerechtigkeit, für jüdische Sprache und Gehille und für jiddische Poesie. Für Hinde, the Libe Brent, for Yiddish justice, her family and community, and for Yiddish poetry. Hinde is also an award-winning Yiddish poetry translator who is currently writing her PhD on Yiddish women poets of the 1920s, a rich minefield of exquisite works. Poetry is a medium that needs to be read out loud, with the rhythm of the words articulated and all the important pauses calibrated with sensitivity and nuance, and I have no idea how you say that in Yiddish. But if there is to be an intelligent reading of the poet's intent, that's what has to happen. There are few to match Hinde's mastery of the spoken Yiddish word. When she reads, she caresses the language so deftly that even if you verstehe kein, if you understand nothing, I guarantee you will feel what she's trying to say. With some of her poems, I know that even a stick holz, a block of wood, would start to smoulder. Her own works are written with great passion and reverence for language, and tonight I'm delighted that she'll be reading one of her own compositions, Miriam's Lied, Miriam's Song, and she'll then read it in her own English translation afterwards. Please welcome Hinde.
Schönen Dank, Leah, for deine Reinführung. She knows those words are nothing to do with me. Ich will Kollegen anerkennen, die eingewohnt hier. von coolen Volk, wo wir treffen sich heute, wie die traditionellen Eigentümer von dem Land. I want to respectfully acknowledge the elders of the great Kulin nation as the traditional owners of the land where we meet today. I wrote this poem many years before I was singing Shashlafine every night. And it was published in 1994, and I'm going to read you my Yiddish and my translation. In Yiddish sagt man in jedem Lachatrer, in every laugh a tear. And so tonight, when we talk about Libe or Libe Brent, and I suspect some of the other people are doing Libe and I'm doing Brent, when we talk about Libe Brent, for me, I must acknowledge the people whose Libe Brent, and they feel free to express it. In 78 countries where people can be jailed for the kind of love that they have, and in 12 countries where people today can be put to death. So tonight my poem is dedicated to the men and women of those countries und erwarte wie ständig euch zu meinem Basherte, and as always to my own Basherte, my distant one. And it's called Miriam's Lied. Oh Miriam, mein Malke von Midberg, und dir ist mein Herz voll mit Pein. Treff mich vernacht bei dem Brunnen, weißt schon, wo ich will behalten sein. Sehrs, man soll dich nicht noch gehen, komm eure, falls trotter Gefahr. Sie sagen, es ist nicht normal, unsere Liebe. Sie kennen uns Taten der Fahr. Nur ich hunger, dich zu halten und halten, mit Liebe dein Leib zu mir drücken, mit Weichkeit dich wieder zu wiegen, zusammen dem Sonnenvergang anzugucken. Wenn du bist das Sichere in meine Ohren, wollen wir sich zerflammen, wie Skierreut. Ich will dir lecken, das Sand von die Wies. Ich will dir lecken, das Salz von der Heut. Unser Libe brennt heißer wie der Midberg. Es bricht wie Sand, was der Säg nicht kann schocken. Haben gepaskend die, welche haben keine Ahnung, als ist unser Liebe verboten. Sie sagen, dass zwei Freunde doch nicht lieben. Galit seien die Gesetze neues Geklärte. Wenn es treffen sich nur unsere Lippen, weiß der Himmel, als du bist, mein Bescherte. Ich bin bereit für jeder Sekunde, weil mein Oasis, mein Teil bist du, bis ich will wieder in deine Schwarzäugen sinken, versink ich in Umetiger, Ruhm. Gib Achtung, oh hielt sich mein Honig, schusch er sich zu mir geschwind, selbst man soll dich nicht rappen, es ist doch unser Liebe, kein Sinn. Oh Miriam, mein Malke von Midberg, als wir schon umkommen, wird mir sein besser. Ja, Groß ist Tage, dieser Konne, no, es ist doch unsere Liebe noch größer. And my translation. Miriam's song. Oh Miriam, my queen of the desert, without you my heart's filled with pain. Meet me at twilight by the well. I'll be hiding where we arranged. Make sure that you're not followed. There's such danger. The fear chokes my breath. They say that our love isn't normal. we are found, will be sentenced to death. But I hunger to hold you and hug you, to press your body to mine as one, to lovingly rock you once more as we watch the setting red sun. When you're safe in my arms again, we'll burst a flame like the wide desert skies. I will lick the salt from your skin. I will lick the sand from your eyes. Our love burns hotter than the desert. It sears and sizzles like unshaded sand. But those who have no idea have ruled that our love must be banned. They say that two women must not love. Bitter as bile are their laws. For it's true that the instant that our lips meet, even the heavens know my basherte is you. I'm prepared for every danger, for you are my oasis, my passion, my core. I sink down in disquiet, despair, until I can sink into your dark eyes once more. Be careful. Oh, watch out, my honey. Whisper yourself to me before nightfall. Make sure that you are not caught, for our love is no sin at all. Oh, Miriam, my queen of the desert, I count the hours till I'll see you later. Yes, the risk that we take is so great, but our love is even greater.
My mother often says that the Libe Brent has only a nasse Schmatte. Now I know what I need the nasse Schmatte for. It's just got to be hot. Hannah goes to a shadchan hoping that he has someone on his books who would meet her needs. She says to the shadchan, I'm looking for a husband. Can you please help me find someone suitable? I'm sure I can help, replies the shadchan. May I ask what your requirements are? Well, says Hannah, he needs to be handsome in a masculine kind of way. He needs a good sense of humour. He must be polite and courteous and have a knowledge about most subjects. He needs to sing and dance well, and I want him to tell me interesting stories when I need some conversation and be quiet when I need to rest. The shadchan smiles. She says, I understand exactly what you need. A good television. Centuries of experience and tradition have shown that a good match is most likely to be formed between people with similar outlooks, attitudes, beliefs and backgrounds. And for many centuries it was the role of the shadchan, the matchmaker, to help connect people. The shadchan checked whether you had the right yichus, the right background, looked into who your parents were, what sort of education you had. They checked your hair and your teeth, your wealth and your health. And if everyone agreed, they made a match, mazel tov. And whether it worked wasn't the shadchan's concern. The rest was up to you. Not much different to J-Day today, where people take a chance on finding their perfect match. And if they get lucky, after at the Libe Brent after about 3 months. Or up to about 3 months. Whether you are young or old, everyone is looking for their bashert, as this very, very short film shows. And everyone, as you will see, everyone's idea of perfect is quite unique. The idea of love being corrupted by overuse. Do we count more on loving than being loved? In an individual-centred era where much emphasis is placed on emotion and not on reason, We are delighted to welcome two individuals who express both emotion and reason to explore something of the Libe Brent. I'd like to invite Libbi and Bram to come to the stage while I'm introducing them. Libbi Gorr, I don't know if you know Libbi, I'm not sure if you understand Yiddish, but your name in Yiddish, if it's reversed and says Gorr Libe, means only love. Terrific. Our very special guest is a broadcaster, writer and performer, born and bred in Melbourne. As an interviewer, Libbi is bold and sensitive, thought-provoking and irreverent. As a program maker, she's innovative and surprising. Her interests are broad, spanning politics, sport, gender issues, film and television, body image and self-esteem. And all of this built on the foundation of Libbi's Elmer Feast portfolio, which made Libbi an it girl of the 1990s here in Australia and widely acclaimed overseas. Libbi values the importance of guilty pleasures, Vamir that Yiddish translates to cheesecake. And she embodies the best qualities of a Generation Xer, the generation born after the baby boomers, a generation whose worldview is based on change, a generation in search of individual freedom and human rights for all, and a generation that knows how to enjoy itself. Currently, you can enjoy listening to her on her little wireless program on the ABC 774 on the weekend, where she uses her red-hot brain and even hotter mouth to puncture pomposity, to challenge convention, to make us laugh and to make us think as she engages with the ideas of the day. We are delighted and privileged that you've made time in an insanely busy schedule where every day she's asked to be at some function or another, and that she's accepted our invitation to participate in our program and to schmooze with Bram Presser. Would you welcome Libbi? Just a minute. Bram Presser continues to confound expectations, and I suspect he rather likes that. Don't let his looks fool you, he really is a lawyer. He holds the record for the longest continuously undertaken law degree at Melbourne University. Without failing subject. Graduating with honours after 10 years in 2004. Rather than going straight into practice, Bram went on to become a senior lecturer in critical criminal law at Melbourne University. University life allowed Bram to tour the world with an inexplicably well-received comedy punk rock band, Yiddish, which was the central focus of a Lonely Planet documentary in Melbourne. Admitted to practice in 2010, Bram continues to balance his legal work with a successful writing career. He has published both academic and fiction pieces, and he contributes regular columns and journalistic pieces to a number of different newspapers and magazines, and his story Crumbs won the Age Short Story Award in 2011. Like his compatriot Generation Xer, Libbi, he likes to challenge authority and uses his fine mind to champion the underdog. But you are your father and I'm the cougar. Can you say that in English? Although he can look totally formidable, his preferred sparring weapon is words, and his athleticism in this area continues to be honed in both work and play. Bram, we're also grateful for your participation today. Thank you. They are starting with love, they're starting with consuming passions. Who knows where they'll end? Thank you, both of you.
Thank you. I should preface this by saying that I, as an interviewer, know absolutely nothing about love, as I'm constantly reminded by my partner. But, so Libbi, renowned broadcaster, comedian, author, and now add to that this guru of the heart. You're a wise woman.
Yes. I love the fact that I've
and a modest one.
I love the fact that I've got a red hot brain that I apply to great issues like Dr. Hugh, people's problems with their pets, and what do you do with swollen anal glands?
That's actually a big problem. So tell us this.
Yes.
Why does love always burn? Like when it's good, your heart literally burns, it aches like it's bursting. When it's bad, your heart breaks, it stings, it's like some kind of untreatable angina. What is this thing we call love that burns? Come on, red hot brain.
I was going to say I don't remember, but that would be unfair and untrue in actual fact. Burn probably isn't the right word. So I challenge the premise of your question.
So it's Libe something else that I don't know in Yiddish.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know Yiddish either.
I think it's because it's the foundation. And I think it's because without it, the key to happiness in life is choice, a sense of purpose, and relationships. And without it, you're probably not expecting me to answer this.
It's very wise.
Correct.
So I can't say anything now. I'll just get in trouble.
And without a sense of fullness of heart, or to have it removed from your heart, I think that's what it is. Maybe if you've never experienced it, you don't miss it. But if you have, it's a little bit like chocolate. Take it away and say you can't have it anymore, and you ache.
I can relate to that. I'm diabetic. I used to love chocolate. That got taken away from me. Kills me. So, I mean...
And it gives you a hit, just like sugar then. And if you have too much
sugar
sugar,
actually kills me. But yeah.
you probably faint if you're a diabetic.
I mean...
You've had too much.
So, love is something that, I don't know, do you feel it's something that consumes you when you're in it, when you're experiencing it? Is it something that, I don't know, maybe...
Such a cute question. How long have you been with your partner?
Well, this is the embarrassing part. 10 years.
Right.
I should know better.
So 20.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're double speed. So you're clearly going to know double as much as I do. I know nothing. Double nothing is nothing. Go for it.
Double nothing is nothing. Correct.
We're both boys. Great at maths.
What was the question?
Love is something that consumes you. Like
So I'm not expecting you to do it this way. But then I guess that's what everybody says on the first date, isn't it?
Two complete strangers talking about most intimate topic.
Yeah. Go on then.
So, is love something that you can control or contain? Like, I always think of Woody Allen, the great Jewish philosopher.
Are you going to come up with my favourite line ever in the world in the movie?
Which one?
The heart is a very resilient little muscle.
Well, this is his second best line. The heart wants what it wants, right? There's no logic to these things. You meet someone, you fall in love, and that's that. That's his very just practical definition of love. So, what's your? Do we have any say in the matter of love?
Yes, of course you do. Of course you do. And people have had say in love all the time. It is a choice, because if you understand what love is and what attraction is, you can kind of disassociate your heart from it. For instance, just say you and I were both single and we were sitting here, we're having this conversation.
Oh, the cushy couches that had a lot to it.
With everybody
I was
watching.
not expecting cushy couches, yes. And an audience.
And there were arrows flying between us. That would be oxytocins being released from our brain. Oxytocins that would be wanting us to mate and have children with amazingly ratty hair between the children. There would be something familiar about you that would attract me to you. Possibly something like your... I was going to say
I think you're
lips.
searching for something nice to say about me.
I was going to say lips, but my father doesn't have rings through his lips. But obviously, in terms of attraction to people, I've read enough about love to know that there is something familiar about someone that you can fall in love at first sight with. Whether it be the hair, the lilt of the voice, the pheromones, or indeed the lips or the shape of the face, whatever. That's the kind of thing that helps you fall in love and be attracted to each other. And then once you're over all the oxytocins and the dopamine and the adrenaline that gets released at the front of the brain that has got to do with action and impulse and the kind of impulsive, stupid thing that makes you go out and actually buy tickets to a Kylie Minogue concert, then you move into real love, which is the long-term love, right? So I don't know which love you want to talk about. The one that has me sitting here thinking, I wonder what it'd be like, you know, with you, or the one that I truly do experience, that most of us in the room have experienced, that has gone past the romantic passion and moved into something more comfortable and sometimes less comfortable, but always loyal and thoroughly anchored in mutual goals and values and mortgages.
And usually a shared puppy dog.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, well, all of them, the changing nature of love. So in your experience, having the double the experience that I have, right?
Yes.
And
Do you have any children?
Does the dog count? Thank you, yes, I say so too. When my parents ask me about grandchildren, I'm like, you have a grandchild, poor things looking at you, wanting food. Now, no, I don't have children, clearly. So how do you find that love changes with how is yours? Let's go back to the beginning.
Which love?
Okay, we'll go back to the beginning.
The love I have for my mother, the love I have for my father, the love I have for my partner, or the love I have for my children. Because they're all different.
Well, how do
But they all matter. Do you understand?
Yes.
They all matter.
Okay, a classic thing.
It's fun being a cougar, sort of swiping him around the head.
That's right. Yeah, I'm used to it. You're probably aware. Ayala Waldman, the author, right? She said a couple of years ago, and she got caned for this, that she loves her husband more than she loves her children. And she was absolutely destroyed in the press about that. So you're talking about different kinds of love, but is there a hierarchy of love, and is that something you're allowed to admit to? Or does your art kind of expand along the kind of latitudinal plane, and to allow more space in, and you would never, you'd never admit to yourself that you love one category of person more than the other?
Now we get to the hub of it. I reckon it's
But do you love your kids or your partner more? That's the question.
Do I love my kids?
Put you on the spot.
Well, I love them both differently. And I would imagine that I love them both the same because I am infused with the love my children have for their dad. If my children didn't have their dad, it informs my love for him every day. Because they adore him. So I don't separate the circles in my house because, look, I grew up with everything, I have to say. My parents adored me and my brothers. We went to good schools. We had love and happiness in our home. And when I looked around when I was choosing a partner, I looked at my family and I thought the one thing my family doesn't have is sensational, long, fabulous legs. So I hooked up with a Birchmore, B-U-R-C-H-M-O, and Birchmore spells entertainment and fabulous legs. So my partner is not Jewish. He is at one stage when we were living in Melbourne, he became the only Celt in Caulfield. And he used to sing that little song, just as I used to sing when I used to visit his parents up in Sydney. I was the only Jew in Janali. But even though having a multi-cultured relationship with two beautiful children together, both who've got great legs, so I won. And we have Friday night dinners, good legs.
Did I get your hair? They have ratty hair.
They have ratty hair.
That's good.
Beautiful ratty hair. They're both stunning children. And they adore their father to bits. And he is beautiful with them. So every time a long-term love gets slightly tired or tatty or tense or whatever, I look at what we've four have created together and I love him all over again. So I think it changes, doesn't it?
So I've got some things to look forward to.
Yes,
Great.
indeed.
Excellent.
And
Very flashy ideas.
having children, you don't have to have children, I get that. I get that people can choose not to have children, and I get that people can't have children. And I get that people make their lives without children. But for me, having children opened a chamber of my heart that I didn't know existed. It was like walking into a Kellogg's commercial where, there were blue skies and waving corns, because I was of the generation, Bram, an MLC girl, where we were taught that career was really, really, really important. So much so that my mother gave me a book called Miles Franklin. She changed the cover. She made a new cover for it. It had Your Brilliant Career on it. Right? Yeah. So it wasn't like, even at school, educated by those feminists, we weren't told that true contentment came from having a happy home. But actually, I've had a stellar career, and some of my most blissful moments have just been with fish fingers and the four of us. In a family setting. It's not a motherhood statement, it's love.
So then what's the key to making it work? What's the key to making love something that actually doesn't, you know, consume you in a bad way? How do you avoid the toxic love?
How do you get through the shitful stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, funnily enough, I'm in the process of putting together a little film that I made with my father and his family and our family. It's called Eric Gorr's Family, and it was meant to be just birthday greetings, but it's turned into something else. And anyway, I've just got my father's word. We were talking about it tonight when I popped in on the way home from work today. Persistence. I think anyone would say that it's persistence, because of course you love each other and of course you've invested in each other, but in anything long and rich, there have to be bumps, don't they? Don't they? So it's about choosing long-term what you want.
But are some loves inherently doomed?
Probably. That's how Shakespeare made all his money.
So, would you then agree with kind of the Tennyson line, you know, it's better to be sort of loved and lost than to never have loved at all? Or do you, given that you've had, or do you think that's different from person to person? You know, like, is it lost? Wrong, you're right.
Well, how would I know?
Well,
it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. How could I be so judgmental? If I didn't know, then I wouldn't be hurt. And if I lost, then I might be walking around with a broken heart. Who would know? However, Tennyson made most of his money after he died.
So
I prefer the other kind of poetry, your poetry. It's got a lot more sex in it than that.
Actually, I think we're pretty much out of time. But speaking, that's my guess from Leah said. But I just think that, I don't know if you're aware of the Hinde Klas. This is I think the most beautiful line. This is the only thing I know about love. I just want to finish it because I just happen to have the stage and I'm able to read it. But he says he wrote this as a letter to his wife as she was dying, and he actually took his life the same time she died, and left this on. I know it's very happy, but he does it. He finishes with the most beautiful line. He says, "We've often said to ourselves that if by some miracle we were to have a second life, we'd like to spend it together."
Oh,
that's the best.
That's so
but,
beautiful.
like I mean, for me that is love, to find that person, you know, a person that you want to actually be reincarnated 100 times to live it over and over again with them.
Well, I think that's beautiful.
Except for wanting to live 100 times.
I would just say that my parents, coming up this year, have been married for 60 years. And my father, my brothers, say the key to my parents' relationship is my father's ability to say, yes, dear. However, I think that the secret of their love is an absolute commitment to the lyrics of the song that was played at their honeymoon, which was Moon River, which I will put, breaching copyright, I'm afraid, on the little film that I'm going to make and never show in a public setting. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. If you can travel along the road, give each other a lot of space, come together, you have space, respect each other's interests and always have something to talk about, then I think you're in for a lovely, vibrant ride. Dips, hills, plains, valleys. I want the full experience, because I swear, if my love was just going to be nice and content, it would possibly bore me. So I say, bring on the full richness of the long-lasting, true experience. And sorry to make it personal, but that's what love means to me.
Thank you.
What happens when you cross an Israeli mother with a Lithuanian father, mixed in some Romanian grandparents on one side and a Uber from Vilna on the other? This genetic cocktail produces a class act in the form of the wonderful Galit Klas. Has been performing since she gave a well-received shtick as a buba when she was still only at primary school. The acting applause bug had struck. Galit went on to learn Yiddish as a young adult, completed a performing arts degree at Monash University and created some memorable characters in her recent Yiddish cabaret show, My Mama Loschen. She sings beautifully, she acts well, and she writes with great insight. But all her mother wants to know is, when wirst du Kassen davon kommen? When will you get married? Mum, like all of us, will have to wait and see. Tonight, Galit is here to sing with a very nice Yiddish Hinde, Brent Kaye, who I'm inviting up onto the stage. Brent's voice is also a gift, which he shares generously with our community in his capacity as a Chazan Tzikil Shul and as the musical director of both the Northeastern and Keren Hall choirs. He's been trained in operatic studies, which makes his cantorial singing even more powerful and poignant. Hailing from Durban, South Africa, Brent, who holds a master's degree in Jewish education, has held senior positions in Melbourne and Sydney Jewish day schools and remains involved in Jewish education. If you wanted to draw an image to reflect Brent's essence, it would be a round face topped by brown curls and a face wreathed in a huge smile, with musical notes pouring out of his mouth. Because Brent loves to smile, and even more so because he loves to sing. And it's a perfect shidduch because we love to hear him. Tonight he's joined by Galit as they sing a song from the classic and beloved 1963 musical Fiddler on the Roof, adapted from the great Sholem Alepham's work Tevye the Wilchike, as they attempt to address one of the most existential questions in life. The question, and the song of course, is, do you love me? Please welcome Brent and Galit.
Was ist das? Liebt's mich Serce? Ich lieb dich. Von der ganzen Sematoche, von Pogrom bei uns im Haus, bist du schon ganz entdreht, den Stubschloss dich Haus, du leist noch heute Morgen. Golden. Ich will etwas sagen, nun. Liebt's mich Serce? Bist ein Narr. Ich weiß, Golden. Liebt's mich Serce? Ich lieb dich. 25 Jahre, was wascht dein Wäsch? Rein und putz, Tepp und Mesch. Heute der Kinder, merkt die Kuh. Noch 25 Jahre, was lebe die einer du? Wenn ich hoch in a lang weiß Puppekleid, zappel dich. Ich verschämt, mein Herz hat mir geklemmt. Sagt mein Tati zu mein Mama, es wird die Liebe, seht auch sammeln. Drüben frag ich Golde. Liebst mich Serce? Ich bin dein Weib. Weib! Golde! Gibt's mich Golde? Ich lieb dich. 24 Jahre, was lebt mit ihm? Geess mit ihm, fast mit ihm. Als mit ihm ein Nacht bei Tag ist das nicht Liebe so. Oh nein, du Tacke, wie ich lieb.
the wonderful Tomi Kalinski, more of whom I will speak about later. Brent. I've been up here too long. That's love after 25 years, and so many things are left unspoken. But it was a deep and companionable love. We're now going to look at a different source of love. Isaac Bashevis Singer, one of the great storytellers of the 20th century, a Nobel Prize-winning author who wrote only in Yiddish. His writing is a unique blend of religious morality and social awareness, combined with an investigation of personal desires. Though his work often took the form of parables or tales based on a 19th century tradition, he was deeply concerned with the events of his time, the future of his people, and their culture. The people in his novels are often at the mercy of circumstance, but even more so their own passions. The passions are frequently of a sexual nature, but also of another kind: manias and superstitions, fanatical hopes and dreams, the figments of terror, the lure of lust, the tyranny and feeble inventiveness of obsession. Tonight, I'm delighted that Danielle Charak will read a small excerpt from The Slave that she has selected to reflect the theme of the Libe Brent. Danielle said to me, "Was weniger als besser. The less said about her, the better." And she's actually right, because words really can't encapsulate her contribution to Melbourne's Yiddish and wider community. Danielle's dedication to Yiddish is well known, but it is her parents, Rivka and Nathan Griffenberg's connection to the Kadimah that binds her here. Her teaching and mentorship are legendary, her communal activism exemplary, and her glorious Yiddish voice has graced the airwaves for a long time. And throughout her life, she continues to be involved in communal events like this, packing more into a week than seems possible, and applying to everything she does her own very demanding high standards of excellence. But it's her quiet courage, her generosity of spirit, and her Menschlichkeit that mark her even more profoundly and simply transcend language. Danielle, may we bless with you this woman's responsive. To contextualize the reading, it's useful to know that in his historical novel The Slave, written in 1962, Singer depicts the devastation post the Kalinski massacres in Ukraine in the 17th century, and it also can be seen as a commentary on Orthodox Judaism. Jacob, a pious Jew and teacher, the only survivor of his family and community, is sold into slavery to a family of primitive peasants. He lives on a mountain in a barn and tends to the flocks. The daughter of the family, the Gentile girl Wanda, visits him at night and brings him food which he has learned to do according to the laws of kashrut. They fall in love. This forbidden love lies heavily on Jacob, then he becomes totally consumed by it and committed to it. Libe Brent.
In Drößen hat gegriet der Frost, aber in Scheier ist nicht gerein zu kalt. Wanda ist gelegen neben Jankevi, ihr Busen zugedrückt zu seinem, ihr Mäul gegen sein Mäul. Hat gerät und sie hat wieder gefragt. Wenn hat umgeräumt und schmuss mit ihr von die dosige Verheulenischen, hat sich allein gehalten für ein Narr. Chutz da, Posche Israel. Wie kann Gorr a poerischer Mäuer begreifen als so eine Tiefkeiten? Aber Leute, die der fränkischen Ihre, hat Jankev eingesehen wahrscheinlicher, als sie benennt seine Wörter. Sie hat auch viele gefragt, Kasches, was Jankev hat nicht gekonnt auf sie entfernen. Und die Chais haben nicht den freien Obtreu. Für was leiden sie Schmerzen? Und bloß die Jiden, seinen Gottes Kinder, zu was täuben die Gorr? Sie hat ihn zugepresst, so stark, als hat vernommen das Klappen von ihrem Hals hinter der Brust. Die Hände haben sich wie eingefroren in seine Rippen. Ihr Durst noch Wissen ist schier nicht gewesen so mächtig wie die Lust zu leihen. Hat gehört, wie sie fragt, wo ist die Schonne? In die Augen? In die Augen, in die Gehirn. Sie belebt den ganzen Guff. Wo geht die Schonne, wenn der Mensch starrt? Zurück auf in den Himmel. Hat kaum eine Schonne? Nein, bloß ein Nefesh. Wenn ich wäre Gottes Tochter, wenn ich wäre ohne Jiddischkeit? Ja, euch wirst es tun mit dem ganzen Hals. Ja, Janke, mit dem ganzen Hals. Du musst es tun, nicht weil du hast mich lieb, nur weil du glaubst in einen Gott. Ich glaub, Janke, ich glaub, aber du musst mich lernen. Und dir bin ich blind. Nun, ich muss gehen. Sollt schon bald umtoben. Wanda hat zum letzten Mal gekuscht Janke. Sie hat sich umgehangen um seinen Hals, sich eingebissen in sein Maul. Das Ponymils ist wieder geworden heiß. Sie hat sich abgerissen und ist weg. Wie wohl hat schon gelebt mit ihr Wochen, hat die Avere jedes Mal im Funsnei aufgeschuldet. Wie so ist das geschehen? Jahrelang ist beigestanden den Säuen. Mit einmal ist ein Rock von der Madrege. Seit hat angehäubt die Liebe nicht wieder wandern, ist Janke mehr nicht gewähnt der Eigener. Hat gedauert, aber unkavone. Hat doch alles von Mond zu Mond gesagt, ein Kapitel Tilling, oder gehasert ein Perek Schreies, was hat gedenkt von uns wenig. Aber das Herz hat recht nicht gewusst, was die Letzten bringen nach uns. Etwas in ihm ist geworden verstockt. Hat aufgehört, brummen, singen, die alten Nigunin. Hat sich wie geschämt, zu trachten wegen dem Wein, die Kinder, die Alektäuschen, was die Heidamakas haben umgebracht. Wie gehält sich mit See? See, seinen Heilig. Ist Tomi. Sie haben sich übergeentfert auf Kiddush Hashem. Hat geschlossen einen Bund mit dem Socken. Der Bagel zu wandern ist geworden so groß, als wie nur sie ist ein Reus von Scheier, hat schon wieder noch mehr geengt.
Tomi, du hast so gesprochen, nicht mit Gottes, aber ist gut. Verstehe ich nicht. Tomi Kalinski, who is going to be accompanying several people this evening, and has already accompanied somebody, I just wanted to say something about her. Her first language was Yiddish, and for her the Libe Brent noch. And her love still smoulders for the Yiddish language, music and theatre. Over many years she has participated as a musician, actor and musical director in countless plays, events, ceremonies and commemorations involving Yiddish music, theatre, language and literature. Although that, Tomi is an oitzer, a treasure in our community, and there is scarcely a Yiddish event that hasn't been graced by her participation. Her passion and energy for Yiddish are as legendary and contagious as her beaming smile. In recent years, her tireless efforts in maintaining the Wednesday Club at the Kadimah has brought so much happiness to a generation for whom Yiddish is so precious. And Tomi still finds time to teach Yiddish to teenagers and adults, as well as participating in tertiary Yiddish programs to develop and improve her own Yiddish. But I think the only Yiddish sentence that she doesn't know how to say is "Ich kann nicht anteilnehmen." Can't participate. And thank goodness, we are all the richer for her presence in our community. Tomi, you are truly an OAM. You are an Oitzer and Mensch. For all that she does and for all that she is. Just beautiful. Tomi is going to be accompanying in this performance Elisa, who is already on stage. Elisa has been performing since childhood, performing in Barry Kosky's memorable Gilgul theatre productions of the Dibuk, Brent and the Wilderness Room. Her involvement in Yiddish music and theatre has also spanned many years. As a child and teenager, she has performed in many concerts in commemoration to the Bundesskiff movement that has boasted many illustrious alumni of the Yiddish movement in Melbourne. She is a majestic and powerful presence on stage and continues to perform Yiddish songs cabaret style in Melbourne. Her voice literally is haunting. More recently, Elisa, along with Tomi Kalinski and Evelyn Craig, who is here somewhere, have formed a group called Zaftig and have created a Yiddish theatre piece, Ekwelt, which they performed to great acclaim at the 2011 Montreal International Yiddish Theatre, and again for a season in Melbourne in 2012. They are looking forward to taking their show to New York, to a Jewish festival, celebrating 100 years of Yiddish theatre in New York, itself a great cause for celebration. We wish them every success. I think everybody has a flyer on their tonight, Elisa will be performing Ich will warten auf dir, I'll wait for you. I'm not sure this is going to end well, but Elisa will be accompanied by Tomi Kalinski. Please welcome them.
Thank you, Leah. This is, in a nutshell, 1920s Yiddish romance meets Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Als du hast mir gesagt, als du liebst mich nicht. Und doch hoffe ich hab dich nicht verloren. Down one sich verliert, eigenen Ich weiß, du hast an andere getroffen. Und du meinst, dass jeder ist dein Glück. Ich hab dich alles lieb und ich will hoffen, als du wirst zu mir kommen, zu lieb. Herre, Schone mein, du sollst Wiesen sein. Ich will warten auf dir, vergessen nehmen wie lang. warten auf dir bis die letzte Minute, weil kein zweiter dann Platz von der Welt liegt. Was geruht mein Herz, mein Glück, und du musst es verlängern zurück, weil ich lieb nur dir, weil ich warten auf dir. Ich will warten auf dir, es never wie lang. Ich will warten auf dir, weil du bist einfach lang. Ich will warten auf dir, jeden Tag, jede Show. Make it toil and when you're making better out on Ich will warten auf dir bis die letzte Minute, weil kein zweiter dann Platz von der Welt liegt. Was geruht mein Herz, mein Glück, und du musst es bringen zurück, weil ich lieb nur dir.
From 1881 to 1925, over 2.5 million Jewish immigrants managed to come to America from Eastern European countries alone. At the time, it amounted to 1/3 of the Jewish population of all Eastern Europe. For many of them, life was tough as they discovered that the gold didn't lie in the streets. The Forward, a Yiddish daily newspaper in America, played an important role in helping the Eastern European Jewish immigrants transplant and adjust to American life. It was primarily a working man's newspaper. It became a teacher and a guide for many. And by the early 30s, it would boast a circulation of 250,000, so exercising an enormous influence on Jewish life. And it also painted an extraordinary picture of the varied problems of the Jewish immigrant in America. One of the features of the Forward was the Bintel Brief, which the editor, the renowned Av Khan, established in 1906. He wrote in his memoirs, "People often needed the opportunity to be able to pour out their heavy-laden hearts. Hundreds of thousands of people, torn from their homes and their dear ones, were lonely souls who thirsted for expression or wanted advice in solving their weighty and often tragic problems. Many of the letters weren't written directly by the people who seek advice, but others do it for them. In the first year, I used to answer all the letters myself with the greatest pleasure, because in the letters one sees a rare panorama of human souls." And what did they write about? Where earlier it was about labour conditions, later it was about adopting out their hungry children, about their interfering mother-in-law, or the lazy daughter-in-law, about love gone wrong, about husbands who had deserted families, about the despair of children marrying out, about children not in a hurry to marry, about jealousy, betrayal and loss. Dear Abby became Dear Abby as Av Khan attempted to offer advice in his columns. Here to read several of these letters from our Bintel Brief are Reyzl and Dvora Zylberman, and in the role of editor, Antinon, as Av Khan, is Dessauer. Please come to the stage. Growing up as third generation in Yiddish-speaking households, Reyzl and Dvora Zylberman have a great Yiddish pedigree, stemming from their grandmother, Leah Zylberman, who came from the Jerusalem of Poland, Vilna and Lita, where a beautiful Yiddish was spoken. Reyzl and Dvora Zylberman could easily have simply said, "What a beautiful language Dvora spoke." But they have taken on the role of actively championing their mama Russian by studying with seriously at university and teaching and organising Yiddish language events to an even younger generation, Shalom Aleichem Shul, Skiff and many other places. They honour their Buddha's work and memory as much as their parents' Yiddish activism and all that they do for our Yiddish-speaking community. And Yaakov is a truly verbrannte Yiddishist. Although medicine is his livelihood, Yiddish is his life. The eternal Yiddish student, he's been heavily involved in the Lane Prize, the Readers' Circle, held at the Kadimah on Wednesday evenings, and he revels in discovering and reading obscure texts and essays to share with, well, anyone really. He's tried to seek help for his addiction, but the condition is now a chronic one, and he's simply too far gone. So in the fine tradition of self-medication, he just doses himself up with even more Yiddish reading and learning, and he feels just fine. Please welcome Yaakov.
Choshever Redaktor. Ich bin geboren geworden in Amerika und die Eltern haben mir gegeben eine feine Erziehung. Ich habe sich gelernt Jiddisch und Hebräisch und habe verwendet die Schule mit ausgezeichneten Resultaten. Ich habe gehabt eine Sachfreund und etliche Wachen haben gewollt mit mir Chassene haben, aber ich bin nicht gewinnt. Ich bin besser geworden, besuchen meine älteren Heimstätten in Polen. Mein Mannes jüngere Schwester hat gesagt, Chassene haben. Und also wie sie haben nicht gekannt waren, haben sie mich geschickt auf seinen Ort. Ich bin gefahren in 1. Klas. Die Mumme, der Vetter und die Bobbe haben mich aufgenommen mit Tränen von Freydi. 6 Charoschen bin ich eingestanden bei sie und es hat mir gar nicht gefällt. Sie ist gewesen freilich im Städtel. Alle haben mich warm aufgenommen. Ich bin doch gewesen ein Bürger von der Goldenen Medina. Zwischen die gesellschaftlichen Tours ist gewesen ein intelligenter junger Mann, mein väterser Freund, welcher hat mich geführt auf verschiedene Zusammentreffen. Mit einmal hat sich erklärt in Liebe zu mir in einem schönen Brief. Es ist nicht gewesen von mir kein vollständiger Surprise, aber ich bin gewesen ein bisschen nicht sicher. Nicht als Erfassen habe ich sich gehabt vorgestellt. Die Älteren haben sich bewusst und seien gewesen überblicklich. Ist gewesen ein schöner, ein kluger, ein feiner und ein ausgezeichneter Redner. Aber ich habe sich gewackelt. Bislerweise haben die Unterschiede zwischen uns genommen verschwinden. Ich habe geschrieben zu den Älteren und wir seien geworden Chassenkalle. Etliche Charoschen später habe ich ihn mitgebracht in Amerika. Die Älteren haben ihn aufgenommen wie einen eigenen Sohn. Hat sich genommen lernen Englisch. Dann habe ich ihm vorgestellt von meinem Freund. Der Grüner ist ein Chassen, haben sie gehäuselt. Ich habe sie erzählt wegen ihm und seine Auftun in sein Städtel. Aber sie haben mich angeguckt wie eine Schugene. Ich habe gemerkt, sie wollen ändern, sie Zugang zu ihm, aber nein. Mit der Zeit haben sie ihre Wörter gewirkt auf mir. Ich habe angehoben trachten, dass mein Chassen ist etwas abheuer. Der Kitzer, meine Liebe zu ihm, vergeht bis ich weiß. Ich leide schrecklich von dem, was meine Gefühle und Galit ändern sich. In Europa hat mir ausgesehen wie ein Prinz. Da ist ein Feuer von der alten Heim. Ich habe nicht keinen Mut abzurufen und zu erneuern. Ich kann natürlich nicht reden wegen dem mit meinen Eltern. Hat mich noch als lieb und ich weiß Poschet nicht, was zu tun. Mit der Herz ein versorgter Leah.
Der Meine wird begangen nach größten Fällen, weil sie wird sich zerscheiden mit ihr Kosten. Sie traut sich nicht lassen, beeinflussen von die narrische Meinung von ihrem Freund, welche teilen ein die Welt auf Grüne und Amerikaner. Wir kennen versichern dem Leine, als ihr Kosten wird schnell beherrscht die englische Sprache. Wird kennen amerikanische Geschichte und Literatur, funkt so gut wie ihr Freund, und wird sein ein besserer Amerikaner wie sei. Sie darf sein Stolz mit seiner Liebe zu ihr und Ablachen von sei, was rufen ihm a Grine.
Mr. Editor of the Forward. In truth, this letter isn't for me, but for my unhappy countrymen who asked me for advice. And seeing as I can't even advise myself, I decided to hand this one over to you. My countryman is from Warsaw. He came over 2 years ago. He left a home with a wife and child. He worked for 2 years, he's a baker, and saved a penny here, a penny there, so that finally he could bring them to America. And this is how his beloved wife repaid him. She got him good and tipsy. Then she took him out to the street where a man was waiting. He was probably paid by her. They took my friend to a saloon and gave him more to drink. Then he was led to a rabbi and he didn't know what happened next. All he remembers is that when he came to, he had divorce papers in his pocket. He ran home, but he found no one there except the 4 empty walls. Well, he did his best to keep his business going, but he couldn't stop thinking about his wife's betrayal. Where was she now? He needed to talk to someone. Walking down Ludlow Street, he decided to visit his brother at his butcher's shop. When he entered the shop, however, he was stunned. There, behind the register, stood his own wife. Shortly thereafter, he went to Coney Island. And whom should he run into? You guessed it, his wife and his brother. Did I mention that my friend's brother already has daughters his age? Not knowing what he would do or say, he walked towards them. At first, his brother was so angry he couldn't speak. He came very close to my friend and said, "She doesn't love you, and she never did." It was worse than blows could have been. But my friend didn't respond because he knew that his brother and wife wanted to have him arrested for not paying alimony. He moved to Chicago and spent several months there. But he came back because he yearned for his wife and child. Back in New York, though, he met with great troubles. He'd see his wife and she'd run away from him before he could say a word. He doesn't even know where his child is. He cried before me and said, "I'm not playing around anymore. My blood will not rest until I take bloody revenge." When I asked him whether he'd still want to live with his wife, he told me that he doesn't want to live with anyone else and that marrying another woman is out of the question. He is ready to forgive everything. He asked me to make peace between them, so I decided to turn to you. Esteemed and accomplished editor, give us advice. You can save a man from a terrible tragedy. Is there a way to bring those people back together? Hoping you will fulfill the wish of an unhappy man, I remain cautiously M.A.
Bravo.
Considering how the woman is described here, if no important facts, explanations or details are missing, we don't see anyone to make peace with. For the writer's countryman, the best option is to try to calm down. Right now he thinks that he'll never be able to live without her. This is only what he thinks. If her current actions are only the result of inexperience and frivolousness, she will one day take great pity on him.
Tonight, to honour our theme of Libe Brent, Freydi Mrocki will be performing the glorious Galit classic, Dancing to the End of Love, with a wonderful accompaniment provided by Tomi Kalinski. The Lachadiker and luscious Freydi Mrocki has performed at venues throughout Australia and has devoted much of her life to Yiddish, both as a performer and teacher. As an actress, she's performed with Salt Pillar Theatre, the Melbourne Yiddish Theatre, and the wonderful Wanderers and Dreamers. Freydi is also the charismatic and compelling lead singer of the band Klas, which was formed unbelievably 20 years ago. They continue to grow and evolve, producing CDs And in August and September of this year, Klezmania will bring klezmer music and Yiddish songs to 13 towns across regional Victoria. Freydi always brings a great energy and radiance to all her performances, and it is simply a joy to watch. And we are delighted that she's performing such a beautiful song this evening. Dance Me to the End of Love was written by Leonard Cohen in English. However, the Yiddish lyrics that you'll hear tonight have been written by Dudi Ringelblum. Freydi first sang this version of the song at Dudi's wedding to Ruth Boltman some 30 years ago, and she has it on good authority as their Libe Brent noch weiter. It's not actually quite 30 years. But yes, sehr Liebe Brent noch weiter. Und kommt im Covid zu sein, lernen und zwei von seinen Kindern, erzählen von seiner Liebe.
To be born.
to welcome Isaac Apel to the stage at Kadimah. Isaac has great yichus in the Yiddish-speaking world in Melbourne, not only because his Yiddish is just so beautiful as you listen here, but also because Isaac carries as a glorious gift an illustrious pedigree from his mother, the late Dr. Apel, who many of our generation will remember very fondly as the wonderfully warm and excitable kindergarten Yiddish teacher at Bialystok Center in the 1950s. Isaac, there aren't many times I can say this so appositely, but it was irresistible. The apple fällt nicht weit von der Bäume. Your mother will be failing to see you here today. Not only is Isaac a seasoned lawyer, but I recall he was also a terrific jazz pianist. Being good with your hands, playing with music and playing with words are the perfect qualities for a Yiddish reading of an excerpt from the Song of Songs. Isaac and Danielle are going to do a reading. I'm just going to contextualise it a little bit for you before they do, but please welcome Danielle and Isaac to the stage. The Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, is one of the finest examples of erotic writing, expressing a profound, sacred and physical love between man and God, or perhaps between man and woman. The debate still rages. The Song of Songs celebrates its sexual love. It gives the voices of two lovers praising each other, yearning for each other, proffering invitations to enjoy. The two voices are in harmony, each desiring the other and rejoicing in sexual intimacy. More like 50 Shades of Play. You can make up your own mind what it's about, as I invite you to close your eyes and let this wonderful reading by two acclaimed Yiddishists embrace you as we enjoy an excerpt from this timeless poem that many attribute to King Solomon. And he would be somewhat of an authority, having had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. 1,000 women. Meshiga, how did he even have time? But I guess it proves the adage that for most women, the sexiest part of a man is a very well-developed brain. And one can only speculate that those concubines really related to the wisdom of Solomon. If you always thought of Yiddish as a language for krechtsing or cursing, this poem may change all that. There are going to be images in the background that I just want to mention. Victor Meisner, the artist, did a series of paintings which are a contemporary Jewish response to the Song of Songs. And he did this in collaboration with the poetry of the late and much-loved Debbie Mason. Thank you, Councillor Flint.
Kuschen soll mich mit die Kuschen von seinem Mäul. Worin besser von Wein ist deine Liebschaft. Wohl zum Geruch seien deine Ehren. Geklärte Bäume ist dein Name. Darum haben Jungfrauen dich lieb. Aber du weißt es nicht. Du schönste von Freuen, schön seien deine Backen im Schädler. Dein Hals in die Schnurren. Gildene Kirketlach, dir werden wir machen mit Pinklach von Silber. Bis schön geliebter mein und Lieblach, grün euch ist unser Gelegger. Hat mich gebracht in der Weinkammer und sein Form über mir ist Liebschaft gewesen. Lobt mich mit Treukuss, quickt mich mit Apel, worin krank mit Liebschaft bin ich. Sein linke Hand unter mein Kopf und sein rechte soll mich herumnehmen. Stell dir auf, mein Geliebter, mein Schöner, und komm dir, worin sehr, der Winter ist vorüber, der Regen ist vergangen, weg. Die Blumen haben sich verbissen im Land, die Zeit von Gesang ist gekommen. Der Kohl von der Turteltreu lässt sich hören in unser Land. Lass mich ansehen dein Boden. Lass mich hören dein Kohl, worin dein Kohl ist süß. Dein Boden schön. Mein Geliebter gehört mir und ich gehöre ihm, dem, was wandert zwischen die Lilien.
Bist schön, Geliebte mein, bist schön. Deine Augen seien Zeugen von deinem Schleier. Deine Haare wie astade Ziegen, was losen sich herab von Barbie Gila. Deine Zähne wie astade Schopf, getockte, wie reut vor dem seinen deine Lippen und dein Mäuel ist bachend. Dein Aufschnitt Milchräum ist dein Schleif und dein Schleier. Dein Haus wie der Turm von David. Deine zwei Brist wie zwei Hirschlach, Zwillings von einer Hirschen, was füttern sich zwischen die Linien. Bist im ganzen schön, geliebte Mann, und kein Feller ist in dir und was sagst du? Schwester, mein Kalle, hast zart zu mir gefangen, mit einem von deinen Lippen.
Mein Seel ist ausgegangen, wenn hat gerät zu mir. Mein Geliebter ist klar und geräutelt, die Form von 10.000. Sein Kopf ist fein wie Gold, seine Locken gekreiselt, schwarz wie der Rohr, seine Augen wie Teugen bei Bächen von Wasser. Das ist mein Geliebter und das ist mein Chaver. Tu mich herauf wie ein Siegel auf dein Herzen, wie ein Siegel auf dein Ohren, worin stark wie der Tod ist die Liebschaft. Hart wie der Käfer die Eifersucht. Ihre Flammen seien Flammenfeuer, ein Flacker von Gott. Große Wassern kennen nicht verlöschen die Liebschaft und Teichen werden sie nicht wegfleizen. Antläuft geliebter mein und sei geglichen zu einem Hirsch oder zu einem Rinderjungen, auf die Psonnen Gebirg.
So many community functions. They enrich our love of Yiddish melodies, and more power to them and to Tomi for leading. I now invite Tomi to conduct the choir and invite you afterwards to join in a sing-along. Thank you, Tomi.
Officially, we're singing 3 songs on our own, and then there's a sing-along, but obviously you can sing along with all 6 very happily. I think the words will only be up for 3, but I'm sure there's people who know the first 3 without it. Okay, our first song is by one of the most wonderful folk poets, Mrocki, a carpenter who couldn't read or write music, but used to make up tunes and songs as he worked and then go and sing them to his next door neighbour who had a piano. He was killed in 1942. He didn't survive the war, but his songs did. And one of his daughters was called Reyzl.
Jeden Morgen fahren
last song is about a bit of a hopeless love. It's about someone who married someone else but is still thinking about her, Yosel.